Thursday, November 21. From Beneath. In our study of John so far, we've learnt that John shows how Jesus indeed is the promised Messiah, the great hope that the Jewish people had been longing for. And yet, many of the religious leaders, the spiritual guides of the people, were his biggest enemies instead. Why? Read John chapter 8, verses 12 through to 30. What is the dynamic here between Jesus and those religious leaders? Which text best explain why many rejected him? John chapter 8, beginning at verse 12. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." The Pharisees challenged him. "Here you are, appearing as your own witness. Your testimony is not valid." Jesus answered, "Even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is valid, for I know where I came from and where I am going. But you have no idea where I came from or where I am going. You judge by human standards. I pass judgment on no one. But if I do judge, my decisions are true, because I am not alone. I stand with the Father who sent me. In your own law it is written that the testimony of two witnesses is true. I am one who testifies for myself. My other witness is the Father who sent me." Then they asked him, "Where is your Father?" "You do not know me or my Father," Jesus replied. "If you knew me, you would know my Father also." And he spoke these words while teaching in the temple courts, near the place where the offerings were put. Yet no one seized him, because his hour had not yet come. Once more Jesus said to them, "I am going away, and you will look for me, and you will die in your sin. Where I go, you cannot come." This made the Jews ask, "Will he kill himself? Is that why he says, 'Where I go, you cannot come'?" But he continued, "You are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. I told you that you would die in your sins. If you do not believe that I am he, you will indeed die in your sins." "Who are you?" they asked. "Just what I have been telling you from the beginning," Jesus replied. "I have much to say in judgment of you. But he who sent me is trustworthy, and what I have heard from him I tell the world." They did not understand that he was telling them about his Father. So Jesus said, "When you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing on my own, but speak just what the Father has taught me. The one who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do what pleases him." Even as he spoke, many believed in him. Jesus says that they know neither him nor the Father in verse 19. They should have known both, but these men were self-deceived. They were so caught up in their own traditions and philosophies that even with Jesus right before them, doing all the things that he did and saying the things that he said, all-powerful revelations of the Father, they still rejected him. Second, Jesus says to them, "You are from beneath," in verse 23. In other words, however religious they might be, these were not spiritual, godly men. They had a form of godliness, 2 Timothy 3 verse 5. But that was all. They had outward piety, but inward disbelief. This was nothing new, inasmuch as these people draw near with their mouths and honour me with their lips, we read in Isaiah 29:13, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the commandment of men. This very concept is echoed by Jesus centuries later when he said in Mark 7 verse 7, "And in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." Their human teachings, their human commandments were, as he says in John 8:23, of this world. And as Jesus then said in verse 23, I am not of this world. It was bad enough that these men had been deceiving themselves. The tragedy was made worse because they also led others astray. Even though, interestingly enough, John wrote that as a result of the exchange depicted in these verses, many believed in him, that's verse 30 that we read just before. Thus, even despite bad leadership, many Jews were able to get beyond it and see for themselves who Jesus was. And so to finish today, what lessons do you draw from Jesus' exchange with the religious leaders? How can we be from above and not from beneath? And how can we know the difference? And remember, God is always faithful.